Now let's see the lacrimal sac. The lacrimal sac is the dilated upper portion of the nasolacrimal duct, which is around 12 mm in length, and it is actually situated within the lacrimal fossa. And this lacrimal fossa, it is present somewhere here, and this lacrimal fossa, it is formed by anteriorly by this frontal process of the maxilla and posteriorly by this lacrimal bone. The anterior margin of this lacrimal fossa, it is formed by this lacrimal crest of the frontal process of the maxilla, and the posterior margin of this fossa, it is formed by the lacrimal crest of this lacrimal bone. And within this lacrimal fossa, the lacrimal sac lies, which is continuous below with the nasolacrimal duct. This lacrimal fossa, it is covered from the lateral side by one fascia, and this is the lacrimal fascia. When we take a cross section of this lacrimal fossa and try to see the structures from above, we can see the structures like this. So this is the lacrimal bony fossa, and within this lacrimal bony fossa, this lacrimal sac, it is covered from the lateral side by the lacrimal fascia, which is attached to both the margins of the lacrimal fossa. When we see the structure between these lacrimal fascia and the lacrimal sac, there is a small venous plexus lies, and between this lacrimal sac and the bony lacrimal fossa, arterial plexus lies, which is derived from the terminal branches of the fascial artery. Within this fossa, in front, the lacrimal crest of the frontal process of the maxilla, it provides attachment of one ligament, and that ligament, it is called as the medial palpebral ligament. While the muscle fibers are attached with the lacrimal crest of the lacrimal bone, and these muscle fibers, these are the part of the orbicularis oculi. So here in this figure, medial palpebral ligament is attached, and to the posterior margin of this fossa, the muscle fibers are attached, and these muscle fibers, these are the fibers from the orbicularis oculi. So all these are the relations of the lacrimal fossa and lacrimal sac. Now when we see the structure of this lacrimal sac, it consists of two structures from inside to outside. The most inner side of this lacrimal sac, it is lined by the columnar epithelium, and just outer to this columnar epithelium we find the fibroelastic tissue. Now let's see the last part of this lacrimal apparatus, that is nasolacrimal duct. This nasolacrimal duct, it is a membranous canal which is around 18 mm in length, which extends from this lacrimal sac to the inferior meatus of the nose. This nasolacrimal duct, which passes downward, forward and laterally, and open into the inferior meatus of the nose, where it is guarded by one valve, and that valve, it is called as the lacrimal fold, or the other name of this valve, it is the valve of Hassner. This valve of the Hassner, it is responsible for prevention of the blowing of the air into the eye through this nasolacrimal duct. It is also guarded at the upper end with the junction of this lacrimal sac with one more valve, and this valve, it is called as valve of Rosenmuller. This lacrimal duct, it is wider at above and below, and it is narrower in the middle. This nasolacrimal duct, it passes through the bony canal, and this bony canal, it is formed by the maxilla bone, the lacrimal bone and the inferior nasal concha. When we see the structure of this nasolacrimal duct, inside it is lined by the stratified columnar epithelium, and outer to this stratified columnar epithelium we find the fibroelastic tissue. When we see the development of the nasolacrimal duct as well as the lacrimal sac, both are going to derive ectodermally through one solid ectodermal cord which is actually present between this maxillary process and lateral nasal process of the frontonasal process. And in between the two there is one solid ectodermal cord lies, and this solid ectodermal cord will ultimately submerge into the tissue to develop into the nasolacrimal duct. The proximal part of this duct, it is going to form the lacrimal sac. Now let's see the clinical anatomy of lacrimal apparatus. The most common clinical condition concerned with this lacrimal apparatus, it is the congenital dacryostenosis. The dacryo means concerned with the lacrimal apparatus, and in this congenital dacryostenosis, the nasolacrimal duct stenosis occur, and it is congenital condition, and this will lead to the prevention of the flow of the lacrimal fluid to the nasal mucosa, and ultimately the lacrimal fluid will roll down as tear, and this excessive tearing, it is called as epiphora. One more condition, it is concerned with this lacrimal apparatus, and that condition, it is the acute dacryocystitis. In this acute dacryocystitis, the lacrimal sac inflammation occur and the pus formation within this lacrimal sac, and this will lead to the excessive tearing and the pus discharge from the punctum to the conjunctival sac. In this condition, the surgeon is used to open up this lacrimal sac and relieve the pus, and that procedure, it is called as the dacryocystorhinostomy. The third most important clinical condition concerned with this lacrimal apparatus, that is the dry eye. And this dry eye, it is most common in the old age, and even in the young age, the dry eye cases are increasing nowadays. For the treatment of this dry eye, the clinician will provide the artificial tear to make the cornea and the conjunctiva moisten. Rarely the inflammation of this lacrimal gland occur, and this inflammation, it is called as the acute dacryoadenitis. So this is all about the lacrimal apparatus. Hope you understand well. Thanks for watching.